in mind when we look forward for ourselves. The question we still have is, where's the value to the public sector? What we are seeing is lots of budget focus. So collaboration will result in cost reduction. I'm still questioning, where's the value in innovation? Where's the value in new services or better services, increased services? What does Joe Public actually see as a result of this collaboration? And I think that's a question we're all still trying to answer as we go forward. There's a lot more to this, though, than just business models and numbers. It's quite easy to quote business models and numbers. In mergers and acquisitions, it's well established that most mergers and acquisitions don't actually work. 70% failure rate to achieve the expected value, the predicted value that investors hoped for. That doesn't sound very good. And indeed, it isn't very good. But in those worlds, in the private sector, if you merge, you get all the advantages of turnover, market share, increased income, increased profit, just as a result of gathering all these businesses together. So you can accommodate possibly you can accommodate the lack of additional benefits that come from the actual merger itself. You've got a bigger organisation, you're selling more, you're more profits. It's okay. But the actual intended merger synergies don't come about. And maybe we can think about that a little bit more. So, when we think about managing this collaborative challenge, I mean, logically speaking, it's relatively simple. The logic says we've got a situation, we've got something we need to address. For example, the family's hungry. Let's put some investments or inputs in there so we'll obtain some food. What's the output going to be? Well, there's going to be a meal prepared. What's the outcomes? The hunger's going to be gone, and the impact's going to be the family's not hungry anymore. Very simple process. Not easy to do, though. And collaboration is like that. It's not easy to do. What happens, though, in organisations like this and every other large organisation that talks about collaboration and working with other organisations is you move away from the simple situation and you start talking about structure, governance, operations, and you start saying to yourself, how are we going to divvy this up? How are we going to share this? How are the objectives going to be measured? How are the accountability going to be defined? How are the decisions going to be made? Work performed and measured? What rules do we need? How are they going to be embedded? How are they going to be obeyed? And we focus a great deal on the governance side of things. In mergers and acquisitions, this is called due diligence. You check out the viability of the other organisation, you check out the costs, the liabilities, and all the rest of it. And that gets done quite intensely, takes a bit of time, and then it's finished. And then you focus on delivery. One of the things I worry about a little bit in the current situation is, are we focused too much sometimes on reorganisation to our best advantage, and we forget, what does this mean for Joe Public? What does this mean for services to a family out there that needs those services? What does it mean to children at risk? Quite often it happens in the public sector, from what I've seen, is we do a great deal of thinking, a great deal of deliberating, a great deal of wondering about what we're going to do to organise ourselves. And we organise ourselves and we take a bit of time to do that. And then if you ask the frontline public, what difference does this make? You make some funny answers coming back. So, once again, where's the value? Does the value lie in reorganisation in some kind of smart way? Or does the value lie in delivering services that are different, better, more appropriate? So, if you're going to be a collaborative leader, your focus has to be looking at value. And that value has to be enough for the service user and the customer to collaborate with you. And it also has to be enough value for each organisation involved in the collaboration. Now notice I've said enough, not the same. Not everybody will get the same slice of value as their partner. And value is quite hard to measure sometimes. £10 might be great value for you, £100 might not be enough. So you have to kind of assess your collaborative partner's sense of value, what's it worth to them to get involved in the situation. And believe you me, it has to be that kind of discussion. It has to be about what you're going to get, what am I going to get? What's in it for both of us? What's in it for all of us? And don't lose sight of the customer or the service user in that discussion, because they're a big part of this. That's the whole point of doing it. So, when we think about inter-organisational collaboration between organisations, collaboration needs to lead to a result. That's really quite important to remember that word result. We do a great deal of consulting, checking, talking, and we ask people to get together to explore, to see how things could work out. But we very rarely talk about what we're trying to achieve. Let's look at ways to collaborate. Well, that's just a way of, let's have a meeting. The result should come first, and the collaboration looks at how do we achieve the result. Have you got some resources that I don't have? Do you have some money that I don't have? Do you have some skills that I don't have? We'd like to achieve this result. How can we collaborate to get there? And collaboration should probably be used when the result can't be easily achieved in isolation, because collaboration is difficult. Collaboration takes time, takes effort, takes energy. And it can take up a lot of time and effort and energy, so much so we spend more time reorganising than we actually do delivering. So, think about collaboration. Yes, it's useful. We've seen there's value to it. But don't necessarily go into it if you can do it on your own, because the effort involved in doing it is quite high, even though there's value at the end of it. As I said before, make sure the result is enough value for everybody to keep them involved. Because if they're not seeing the value for themselves, then why would they bother? Why would you bother? So, health warning. Collaborative working is not the easy option, nor is it the cheaper option. It's a bit of the invest to save side to this. It takes a bit of work and a bit of effort to ask people to do things differently from what they did before, to ask them to change their habits, routines, hierarchical organisation, who does the work. That takes quite a bit of effort, so it's not cheaper. Collaboration is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. Don't collaborate for the sake of collaboration. Please don't. You'll end up just having talking shops all day long. Think about what you want to achieve, then collaborate around that. And this collaboration thing is one of several models, several changing business models. It's not the only model, maybe not even the best model. And indeed, it's not even appropriate for every situation. So carefully think about collaboration as a way forward when you're stuck with resources, skills, talents, but don't think about it all the time. Sometimes you just have to go back to the old way of getting stuff done. It's not done quickly, it's difficult to achieve, so if you're going to get involved in it, make sure you've got some degree of commitment to it and put some resource behind it. And last, but most definitely not least, it's actually very difficult for a lot of leaders and employees to adjust to. Think about that. If you've been in a pretty traditional organisation for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you've been doing things a certain way all the time, having to shift your way of doing things is quite tough. And if you've been an employee working for a fairly traditional manager who just tells you what to do, and then suddenly one day he comes along and says, I'd like to collaborate with you, please. You might get a little bit suspicious, a little bit worried, a little bit concerned. And indeed, you might not be comfortable with it, simply because you've never done that before. So this collaboration stuff has got value, it is useful, but it takes work. Please don't underestimate it. So, You're a leader, here's your checklist. Look for results when you're talking about collaboration with collaborative partners. Don't just think they would be good to collaborate with. We should be talking more to them. Well, why? Go with some kind of proposal of some kind. Don't just say, let's get together. That's a bit like saying, let's have lunch. Doesn't result in anything. Take some time to identify these partners. Do some kind of analysis. Do some kind of check. And then actually connect with them. One of the things we actually do a lot in the public sector is we say, that's a good idea, and then we go back to their normal day. The effort involved in working collaboratively is quite high. It takes you time to make connections with people you haven't made connections with before, to make proposals to say, could we do this? This is a possibility, let's try it. And if you are going to get involved in it, make sure you put some resource behind it and champion it. It needs stimulation. People aren't used to it, they haven't heard of it, it's not common. It needs nurturing. And if you're not used to it, start small. Don't go creating a big, huge idea that involves hundreds of people and millions of pounds. Experiment a little bit. Try some things. And only when you've got the experiment to work properly, then start creating the large formal arrangements, the governance and the structure around that to make it work. And big clue here, some of these partners may already be in this room with you. Maybe something you should do at the end of this talk is explore what result would I like to achieve and who would be a good collaborative partner for me to work with to achieve it. So, here we are. We've said organisations should, could, might collaborate, and we've got some reasons for that. But just because you get two organisations to agree that they're going to collaborate, and the big bosses say we're going to do this, or the middle managers say we're going to do this, doesn't mean to say it actually happens. Governance, rules, targets don't create collaboration. Remember what we said, 70% of failure in mergers and acquisitions? They were put together, they were pushed together, but didn't work. We see lots of examples, banks, retail, engineering, manufacturing, happens everywhere. So don't presume just because we've said we've got a collaboration, it actually works. Let's look inside a large organisation like Aberdeenshire Council. We might want to collaborate, doesn't happen sometimes. We all have busy day jobs, we're kind of operationally focused, we've all got things to do. Although collaboration seems like a good idea, we never seem to get around to it somehow. Sometimes we do, quite often we don't. And a large part of the reason for that is, in every organisation, there's the formalities, and then there's the informalities. And the formalities are the things like the governance, the rules, the logic, the processes, the procedures, the policies. And they're visible to everybody. Everybody can see those, and they see what the rules are. And they're like the iceberg that's 1/10 above the water. That's the visible bit. But the informal organisation, or the organisation in general, is much bigger than just the formal organisation. The informal organisation consists of all these beliefs, emotions, behaviour, habits, attitudes, cultures, stuff that we never really, we know is there, there's a tacit knowledge there, but we don't actually deal with it very much. We can explore it, we touch it around the edges, but we don't have a process for it, or a procedure, or a rule. But it's really big, it's really important. Breaking beliefs, behaviours, attitudes and culture to move into this collaborative style of working is a huge part of the work. And so when organisations formally get together, they often find that the formal bit's okay, they've got all the rules and structure and logic laid out, but this informal bit isn't working. There's more work to be done there than there is in the formal bit.